Hey folks, welcome to the Managing with Mind and Heart podcast. This is Ethan Nash. Hey, one of my favorite quotes of all time is this. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. That was by Maya Angelou. I think about this quote a lot in my role as a manager, as a leader, as a coach, as a consultant, because I think it is absolutely the guiding light, for me anyways, in how I want to approach my professional relationships, as well as my personal ones. So with that, I want to talk a bit today about being a coach. And by being a coach, I also mean by being a manager, being a leader. I think for most of you, right, the type of people that would listen to this type of podcast regularly, you probably understand or have heard that to be a good manager, to be a good leader, it means you have to be a good and effective coach. The two go very much hand in hand. I mean, and I think you can just understand this and you get this intuitively. I mean, think for a moment about managers or leaders that you've had in your life. Think about maybe a manager that you've had that was a less than effective manager, that was also a less than effective coach. What were the reasons why they weren't a great coach? I mean, think about that for a moment. And on the flip side, think about a manager you've had in your life that was an excellent coach. What made them an excellent coach? What resonated with you? How did they make you feel? How did they impact you in a positive way? How did they help you grow? Look, at the end of the day, in our modern workforce, being a good manager means you have to be a good coach. In fact, I'm going to read a quote from you, another quote, and this is from a book called The $1 Trillion Coach, who was written by former Google CEO Eric Schmidt. And he wrote this book about a man that helped coach many Google executives and employees, as well as many other tech companies. And his name was Bill Campbell. So here's a quote from this book. The higher you climb, the more your success depends on making other people successful. By definition, that's what coaches do. You cannot be a good manager without being a good coach. You need to, according to a 1994 study, go beyond the traditional notion of managing that focuses on controlling, supervising, evaluating, rewarding, and punishing, to create a climate of communication, respect, feedback, and trust, all through coaching. End quote. So, for a moment today on this podcast episode, I want to share some of our thoughts at Nash Consulting on the characteristics, the fundamental characteristics of what makes a great coach. And real briefly, before I get into that, I want to just ask you, my dear listeners, for a quick 10-second favor. That is to just help us out, help support this podcast if you can. Best way you can do that is by going into Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you are listening to this right now, and just leave us a review. Give us a 5-star review, 4-star, whatever. This actually goes a really long ways in helping us spread the podcast. As you know, we don't do any advertisements or anything on this podcast, and we want to keep it that way. And so just, again, that's the best way you can support us, is to leave us a review. So thank you for considering that very much. All right. coming back on track here. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about some of our ideas as far as what constitutes what we believe are the fundamental elements of what makes a great coach. So a while back, I was thinking about this, and I ended up talking with every consultant on our team. And together we created these foundational components here that I want to share with you today. The first element, and I think this is the most foundational element, is that a great coach listens really, really well. So when I was talking to our different Nash Consulting coaches and reviewing the literature, this theme came up repeatedly. To be an effective manager, to be an effective coach at helping other people succeed, you have to really listen. And it's not just to look like you're listening. You really need to hear what the other person is saying and how they're saying it. And when you do this well, the other person can't help but feel deeply respected, which is going to allow them to be able to show up authentically in your relationship with each other. And when someone feels free to show up authentically, they're going to be able to give their best effort towards a personal growth. And I think additionally, when we really practice deep listening, you'll start to hear the things the other person is, quote unquote, saying that they didn't actually say out loud, which allows you to understand their needs more deeply. We really do consider listening a meta skill for all coaches and all managers. It really is required if you're really going to effectively demonstrate all the other best practice coaching skills. Now, I've done some episodes on best practice listening skills. We'll link to one of those in the show notes. But that's the place to start. Great listening. Now, let's add to that. The second piece here is that a great coach is curious and asks great questions. Now, do you see why you would need to be a great listener in order to be good at this one? I mean, obviously. Being curious about what the other person is saying and asking good follow-up questions is going to help them process it and discover their answers on their own. And research has shown that when someone feels that they have generated a solution on their own, that solution is much more sustainable, and it's much more likely that they're going to take action on that solution. And that's really what we want as coaches, as managers. So the next time you're coaching an employee, practice approaching the conversation with almost a childlike curiosity. I mean, try out phrases like, hey, why do you think that happened? I'm curious, what do you mean by that? Or I don't really understand. Tell me more. Is there something going on here that you're not saying? What I'm talking about is being genuinely curious. When you're genuinely curious, when you lean in and embrace that curiosity that we all have inside of us, you can't help but ask great questions. Now, the next piece here, maybe this sounds a bit counterintuitive to how many of us think about a coach. Some of us think about a coach as maybe kind of only taking the question approach, never providing answers or solutions or thoughts of their own. I don't think that is practical. And so this piece is, a great coach, of course, isn't always trying to fix things, but they also don't shy away from providing practical advice and insights. So we have to strike a balance between not being a fixer and actually helping someone when you feel you have something valuable to share. Now, it can be annoying to always, in kind of a Socratic fashion, have your questions answered with questions. Some of that, of course, is good, but I'm talking about a balance here. If you think you have some really useful advice that could help this other person, I mean, feel free to share it. Maybe don't start there. Ask some questions. Help them kind of get as far along as they can, and then share the gift that you think you have for them. But at the same time, again, you're also not setting someone up for success if you're always jumping in with solutions and advice without allowing people to discover those answers themselves. So, anyways, a great coach doesn't just solve the surface level problem. They help you develop a framework for finding solutions to that problem. So, as the old proverb says, you teach someone to fish, and you could finish that one for me. The next piece here is a great coach is authentic. Now, I know this word authenticity gets people spun up in knots, gets me spun up in knots when I hear people talking about authenticity in the workplace and bringing your true self. I just think there's a total misunderstanding of authenticity, especially at work. In fact, I did a short episode on authenticity with some of my thoughts on that. I'll link to that in the show notes as well. But at the end of the day, I still think that a great coach is authentic. And being authentic means being candid and honest and bringing yourself to the situation. It doesn't mean being unedited, though. It means reflecting their impact on you back to them. So, for example, you might tell a person you're coaching, hey, Sean, like when we talk, I gotta be honest, I sometimes feel criticized by you. Now, this takes some courage, and it might rub people wrong. But I think at the end of the day, the right people that want to grow and develop, they're going to respect you for that. And this kind of authenticity can actually help the other person discover their impact on others, which can lead you both into a helpful discussion about behaviors, root causes, better approaches, and more. And in this sort of kind of give and take way, it allows them to show up authentically with you. And that's when you can get down to the real work that needs to be done here. All right, my next one here is that a great coach provides more encouragement than criticism. In fact, a Gallup survey found that 67% of employees whose managers focused on their strengths more than their quote-unquote weaknesses were fully engaged in their work, compared to only 31% of employees who managers tend to focus on their weaknesses. Now, maybe no surprise there, no surprise. But additionally, research in neurological science has shown that when people focus on what they're doing right, their parasympathetic nervous system, which is kind of the rest and digest system, is activated. And this stimulates the growth of new neurons, which they call neurogenesis. And this enhances cognitive, emotional, and perceptual openness. So, look, sure, artful criticism can be useful and at times even necessary. Right, we talk a lot about this podcast on giving feedback and the importance of that. But if your MO is to focus more on people's weaknesses than their strengths, you may be doing more hurt than you are providing help. So focusing on what someone is doing wrong actually lights up their fight or flight system, which causes them to only focus on the information most necessary to survive. And this can stifle creativity, and it really, at the end of the day, it dulls the growth mindset that we want to promote within our teams. So there is a famous Dallas Cowboys coach called Tom Landry. And he understood this very well. I'm not a fan of the Cowboys, Seahawks diehard, but Tom Landry, I really appreciated learning about his approach. So while other teams after games would be reviewing kind of missed tackles and looking at the fumbles, Landry would actually create a personal highlight reel for each player after the game. And he would actually sit down with those players and point out all the awesome and great things they did. And then not only would he do that, but he would ask them, hey, what was going through your head when you made this particular play? I love that approach. It gets people reflecting on what they're doing well, which allows them to be more likely to repeat those behaviors in the future. I mean, after all, there are an infinite amount of ways to do something wrong. So why just focus there? Alrighty, so the next one here, A great coach pushes you out of your comfort zone and helps you go beneath the surface. Look, when it's all said and done, a great coach helps you grow. Like, that's the bottom line, big picture here. And a great coach knows who they are coaching and finds the right way to challenge you to be the best version of yourself. A great coach says things like, I believe in you, I see what you're capable of, so that's why I'm going to push you. And then they support you on that journey of growth with empathy and compassion. Now, of course, it's going to be uncomfortable for people. People might not even like it. It might even cause some conflict. But a great coach knows that discomfort is actually the path to self-growth. Or as the Stoics once said, the obstacle is the way. There's an executive coach, a pretty famous executive coach. His name is Jerry Colonna. He's the author of a book called Reboot, Leadership and the Art of Growing Up. And I love one of his questions. And his question is, he'll ask his coaching clients, how have you been complicit in creating the conditions you say you don't want? I really like that question. Now, it might not be the right question for everybody, at least right now. It might take you a while to build the trust and relationship to ask that question. But I find that when I've asked this question, and I've asked myself this question, this uncomfortable question, it requires some serious honesty and self-awareness and self-reflection. And a great coach really holds a non-judgmental space for others to dig into that. My next one here is a great coach looks at the big picture. A great coach knows that successful and healthy human beings need to be healthy in all areas of their lives. A great coach thinks systemically. They know that your work life is going to affect your personal life, and your personal life is going to affect your work life. They see you as a whole person, and they recognize the complex webs of parts that contribute to who you are as a person. Now, my final piece here for you is this. A great coach provides unconditional positive regard. So unconditional positive regard, I love this concept. And this concept was first described by humanist psychologist Carl Rogers. And it basically means that we are committed to showing caring and support of the person regardless of their character faults and regardless of their problematic behaviors, regardless of the things that rub me wrong or that annoy me. Unconditional positive regard. If a coach expects to truly build trust and respect, they have to demonstrate that they have your best interests at heart. They have to show that they actually want to be here for you. They have to show that they actually want the best for you. So there you have it, folks. Some ideas straight from Nash Consulting on the foundation of being an excellent coach. Learning to be a great manager in many ways involves becoming a great coach. Now, of course, we all have opportunities to coach people in our lives, even if we're not a manager. Our friends, our partners, our children, our colleagues, and as what happened to me one time, sometimes even the person next to you on an airplane that just wishes we would leave them the hell alone. All right, folks, go forward and coach with excellence. We'll see you next time. Hey, folks, wait. Don't go yet. Please, stay with me for 1 second here. I want to let you know about a couple cool little goodies that we have available for you. If you dig this podcast, you will probably also dig our Managing with Mind and Heart newsletter. This is a monthly newsletter where we share articles that we write about, hey, how to thrive as a manager, how to lead teams that are characterized by high morale, engagement, psychological safety, care and respect, collaboration, and high performance. You can sign up for this newsletter by texting the word leading to the number 66866. Additionally, you can go to our website and sign up for the newsletter there. Our website is www.nashconsulting.com. And of course, if you're not already aware, we have our cornerstone program for leaders and managers, and it is called Managing with Mind and Heart. Go figure. This program is something that we often bring into organizations to work with all their leaders on helping them get aligned and singing off the same sheet of music with best practice management skills and behaviors. We've brought this to hundreds of organizations at this point with really good results. And if you are not able or inclined to bring our program in-house, twice a year, in the spring and in the fall, we offer this 6-day Managing with Mind and Heart leadership development program online for anybody that would like to sign up and join us. To learn more about this online course and to register, you can go to our website. Once again, that's nashconsulting.com. Or send us an email at contact@nashconsulting.com. All right, that's all. That's it. See you later. Bye.